Hi everyone, welcome along to the Monday episode of the Endless Celts Podcast. I'm Ross and I'm joined tonight by Anthony and Stephen. How we doing, boys?
All good, all good. Feeling a wee bit chilly still. That -13's kicked in the air. Like, but we're going to come on to all that, all things Celtic. Looking forward to it, buddy.
All good, mate. All good. As I say, bit disappointed with the result on Saturday, but funnily enough, Sunday ended up not too bad. So yeah, it's all good in the hood.
Aye. Listen, I was at the game on Saturday, first time I've been there in a while. I had Jed's tickets, I think he's in the comments there. Had a great day, Jed. But it wasn't a great performance, but we'll get into that. I'll start off, first of all, just saying thanks to everybody for joining us and getting in the comments and just get fired into it, guys. We'll just start off with our show sponsors, Sharna Clothing. Again, it's the usual stuff, 10% discount. Just follow the stuff in the ticker tape bit below and just follow the instructions and you'll get your 10% discount. Some nice stuff. Cheers, Jed. Some nice stuff. Like Stephen said the other week when I was on, he's ordered the new kind of summer range. So hopefully we'll see him modelling that pretty soon. But I would like to get. I like I've said about the hoodie. I like the pink one, the summer range. It's quite a nice T-shirt. So I'll hopefully pick that up. Maybe in time for going to Florida. But before we get right into it, I'll touch on the Super Six. Again, Franny's at the top, obviously, and no change. It's pretty boring. But just a reminder for everybody, as been playing along, there's a round tomorrow night, so you need to get your picks in. I think there's a full English Premier League card on tomorrow night. But in second place, we've got Stephen Coulthard, who's on 411. Franny's in 434. Mark Robertson is in 400. Then we've got Jamie Latimer on 394. And James Bowie is on 386. So it's fairly compact, the next four. So it could get quite interesting towards the end of the season.
Can I say something in regards to that Super Six? Obviously, Franny's out in front, so we're not going to give a praise to one of the podcast members. Totally does demeans the situation, but I know we're going to look at getting the praise of some of the viewers or people involved in the Super Six, and also Sharna have given us permission to do a giveaway. So if we tie that in maybe with the prize, and we can do a free giveaway of some Sharna tops or clothing or whatever you're into. But yeah, Super Six, Franny, get off it, man.
No, I didn't know that, Stephen. That's quite good. That'd be good for whoever wins it. I don't know what's involved in the giveaway, but that's a good prize for somebody to get because, as I say, there's some nice stuff. But that's that. We'll get right into the podcast now. The game on Saturday against Motherwell, not our finest performance. I mean, it wasn't absolutely horrific. It was sort of going through the motions for me. Were you at the game on Saturday, Anthony?
I was, mate. Yep, me and Jude had a wee day out, so we did. So that's him. He'll not be back. But it was no, we had a good day. Just a bit like yourself. I did feel the fact that with no Jota, obviously no Abada, even Jamesy Forrest being injured as well. You're missing that little bit of wee bit creativity out in the flanks. I'm a big fan of Haksabanovic, but like you guys were saying last week, his best work comes from out on the left, and at the moment, Dyson's the first choice out there. But on another day, got to give credit to the Motherwell keeper in terms of saving the ball. Don't know if we're going to touch on the time wasting or whatever, but some of that was absolutely ridiculous. But in terms of his shot stopping, he had a great save for Kyogo at one each, and then he made obviously Kyogo had another really good chance as well just before Motherwell equalised. So on another day we win by 2 or 3, and nobody's sort of really any the wiser. But if you're going to have days like that, you're as well having it on a day where we've got massive advantage in the league, and it's not a knockout day where anything can happen. So, like you say, there's not the best day at the office, but there's days like this in every season. Even the Invincibles drop points around this time of the season. We had one each draw with Partick Thistle and up at Ross County quite quickly after we wrapped the league up under Brendan as well. So these days happen, mate. It'll be Angie's job to pick over the bones of it and get he certainly didn't sound happy at post-match, but that's for his job to do. As I say, days like that, it's not great, but it's not the end of the world.
Aye, I mean, I'm sort of in the same boat as you. I was at the game. It's the first time I've been at a game in a wee while. We've been playing great. We've been winning all season. Probably recently, the last 5 or 6 games, we haven't been great. Apart from that Kilmarnock game, that first half hour, we were scintillating. But like yourself, I took my brother along, who isn't a huge Celtic fan. He prefers Celtic to win, and he'll not be back near Parkhead either, because he's just a jinx. He's getting called that. But coming to yourself, Stephen, like Anthony, I felt like it was one of the games where we were going through the motions, we were conserving energy. We'd rested a couple of guys, albeit the guys that come in should, and you expect them to do the job. Didn't quite get it done, but like Anthony says, they made a good few chances, just didn't take them. Could have been out of sight before Motherwell equalised. But what was your own thoughts on the game?
You're talking about people who won't be near Parkhead again. And my granddad got a new football jersey, a green and white one from the O'Neill Superstore, and that's just nice. Straight after full time, it was whipped off and threw at my face, so he won't be wearing that again. That's a bad luck omen. And he made me take it home with me, so it's in the boot of my car. So I don't know. I'm debating whether to wear it or not. But the game itself, Alistair Jackson, it felt like an end of season game. It was probably the only time I've seen Celtic turn up and maybe have a bit of complacency, steep into the side and a turn-up job, and we'll win that game comfortably. We discussed it, Anthony, quite briefly, of course, on Friday, the Friday podcast about Motherwell, and Stuart Kettlewell said he wants that, make it to feel like the Ross County game in the League Cup semi-final when we were beat 2-0 and all that type of stuff. It wasn't quite like that for me, but I just thought Motherwell defended well. Motherwell. I thought Celtic were a bit stagnant in the attack. I thought the players who come in, like you said, Ross, were probably going to come on to them. Didn't impress me at all, to be honest, and one in particular didn't impress me. Just felt like we were going through the motions at times, and it doesn't be a bit lacklustre. Like Hugo effort, did you mention the Liam Kelly save? I thought he should have smacked that instead of trying to be fancy and chip it, because the last few times he's been 1-on-1, he's chipped the goalkeeper, so Liam Kelly's probably expecting that, and he called it right, to be fair. So, I mean, it's a gamble, 50-50, but Kyogo, for me, should have put it under, but just fizzed it past him. Just an awful game, if I'm honest. I thought it was probably the worst we've played in a while, and like you said, the Kilmarnock game, the first 29 minutes were unbelievable, but the last 5 or 6 games haven't been quite at our best and quite clicking like we usually do, probably down to injuries, but again, the players you bring in are of quality, and you expect far, far better, and Postecoglou has a right to be angry with some of the players and the fans. I know some people saying they were booing after full time, but I don't think that was necessarily towards the team. I think it was towards the Motherwell antics and time wasting and stuff like that. I've seen a big deal made out of that, which I don't agree with. I know fine right it wasn't towards Postecoglou and the team, but to drop points, and I was raging, but the day after you're smiling again. It's -13 in Glasgow, and that's how it's going to stay, baby.
I mean, in terms of that, like, obviously we do drop points, and yet Rangers, like, they have sort of hung on to our coattails, if you like, and every week they've won, or you could say every week they've won, we've won, because they've played before us all the time, but they must be absolutely dejected coming off the back of Celtic dropping points. They know, Anthony, that they're not going to win the league anyway, but to then like drop 3 points compared to our 2 points, it must be soul destroying. But coming on to, like, say, the goals themselves, obviously the Celtic one, just get your thoughts on it. Obviously it was a deflection, but John will be pleased that we've hit a shot for outside the box. But I don't know if you noticed, I thought as much as it wasn't like a total assist, But Iwata, I thought, played a really big part in that. The way he brought it down and he sort of flicked it round behind himself and laid on McGregor. But just in terms of the goal itself, and then if you want to just come on to like Motherwell's sort of tactics, time wasting in that second half, just what you thought of that.
Well, but on the goal itself, mate, like you say, funnily enough, you and Jude, great minds think alike and all that, because when the goal went in, the first thing he asked me, he says, I think that was a deflection. I says, it was, and he went, what about Iwata though? The way he took it down, nice wee bit of skill and laying it off for McGregor. Like you say, it's one of the ones where we hadn't created too many chances before that, and you thought you get a wee break of the ball, it goes past the keeper, and you think, right, that's it, floodgates are going to open now. And, that just didn't quite materialise, unfortunately. But, and listen, Stephen touched on it earlier, and I do agree. I think there's a lot of clubs that come to Celtic Park, and it is just, 10 men behind the ball, shut up shop, hope for the best, and the media portray the managers of these teams as tactical geniuses. I'm not a huge fan of Stuart Kettlewell, but I do have to think that Motherwell, in terms of playing the game, did actually try now and again to break out. They've obviously got that great out ball in Van Veen, who's a very good player, and he took his goal well. Don't get me wrong, and he definitely did. Obviously we wax lyrical about our favourite left back Gregory most of the season, but he did really take him on and he beat him well for the goal. But in terms of, and people say, well, he did add on 8 minutes of injury time, so it's not like, and then there was 2 further minutes added on because of the length of time some of the Motherwell players were taking to leave the pitch within injury time. But even the time wasting, you would say, it's part of the game. We know the Motherwell keeper for that one, when he was going down, you could tell it was nonsense. But I would say within that sort of 75 to 85 minute, at one point there was a guy sitting in front of me going like, is there somebody in the crowd with a sniper rifle here or something? Because they were going down and not getting up for minutes on end, and you're like, it's just, you would like to think referees, well, we've heard for the way that Nick Walsh spoke to Barry Robson yesterday, the referees have got the power to intervene in a lot of different things. They should be cracking down on it more. I get that to an extent that it's part of it, but no to the extent that they were doing it. And not even that, it wasn't even that necessarily the time wasting that was annoying me, it was the constant throwing of another, but like the coaches were doing it as well, throwing another ball on the park, or then if they were doing it, then taking a while to kick it back out again. I'm not necessarily a fan of the dark arts. I get that they happen, but maybe it's just because Celtic historically have never been very good at it. You're taking the ball into the corner or things like that. I've always felt we always seem to never seem to do so good with it. But it's not nice to see. But they'll not be too bothered. They got away with a point. But I think it just was kind of symbolic of the whole frustrations of the day itself.
Well, I mean, in Celtic's defence, I don't think we've got much practice at trying to see games that we're usually the ones taking the game to the other team, eh? But I mean, in terms of it, like, I've not got a massive issue with it. But like you said, I understand why they do it, but it's to the level of what they were doing it. Like you said, like, I don't mind going down, winning a free kick. Okay, you waste a wee bit of time. Then you get on with the game. But like you say, this throwing the ball onto the park, so there's 2 balls in the park. Hibs were doing it the other week. Motherwell have looked at that, saw it work for them for a big portion of the game. They nearly got the result. Celtic came through. And I think Celtic came through because, maybe it's wrong to say this, but I think Celtic probably came through because they needed that 3 points. They didn't as much. Cheers, mate. They didn't as much need this 3 points. Albeit the title isn't wrapped up mathematically, but you can see, for me, again, I'll go back to it. It looked like they were playing within themselves for most of that game. But just come to yourself, Stephen. I know you slightly touched on the Motherwell tactics, but just go into that and talk about the sort of Van Veen goal. And would you lay any blame at Greg Taylor's door at that, or do you think he couldn't really do much about it? It was just a really good goal.
Before I do, I want to bring the comments into play here. Stubbsy's horse was agreeing with you in regards to players. They're landmines, mate. Padraig Post, they want Van Veen now. Scott Howe, come on the sheep. Paul Dat, to be fair, Liam Kelly done his cruciate about 10 times in that game. Hoops boy, Haggis all round. McGranda comes in, terrible performance on Saturday, shocking. Full Heart should have saved that shot. Scott Howe, hit the thumbs up if you want. You know what I mean? Traction and all that. Algorithms on YouTube. John knows the score of that. We don't really. But in terms of our goal, I mean, it's just Callum McGregor getting in the right space and actually hitting the shot from outside the box, which was probably needed in that instance. Do you know what I mean? And I thought we were trying to play too tiki-taka football, like just side to side. It was passive and it was slow. It was lethargic, someone said in the comments. And
very Neil Lennon-esque.
Very Neil Lennon-esque, and maybe a hint of Brendan Rodgers in there towards the end of his tenure as well with us, just how we played. And I just didn't like us at all. I was really looking forward to the game. I was really buzzed up. I thought we would go in. Me and Anthony predicted 5-0. We're never doing that again, Anthony. No. On the previous podcast, and it was far from a 5-star performance. And the whole team for me, just as you said, Ross, they weren't themselves. They weren't playing that free flowing attacking football that we're used to seeing. I mean, Haksabanovic wasn't getting in the good areas. Maeda wasn't playing the greatest. And in terms of their goal, I mean, Van Veen, you asked me Greg Taylor. I thought it was totally Greg Taylor's fault, to be honest. And he got turned inside out by probably their slowest player. He's no pace about him whatsoever. And the fact that he took him to school and back again and he finished the past Joe Hart's a big issue for me. And as soon as Greg Taylor made that first initial turn, his body was out of sorts. And Van Veen knew what he was doing. He's an experienced goal scorer. He knew he had him on toast. And the antics don't bother me. I think it's just a part of football with lower level teams that they'll hold on to win any way they can. I don't see the issue with it. We would do it in European football. If we were 2-1 up against Real Madrid, you're trying to tell me we wouldn't try and hold the ball and give ourselves a couple of seconds. Do you know what I mean? Tell the ball boys to slow down, and maybe to the extent of it. I mean, Liam Kelly was down for about 10 minutes at one point. It felt like it felt an age.
They faked limping all that for about 5 minutes after it. Every time he got the ball.
It was madness. But the other aspect of it, slow coming off of the subs and all that doesn't bother me. And I think that's what we've came to expect. And you made a good point there, Ross. We're not the team usually doing it. So the lower league teams in the SPFL are going to do that against us if they're coming away with a point or a victory. We just had to find a way around that. And I just thought we could have played for about 100 minutes more. We wouldn't have. I thought the whole game was off. And even to a certain extent, the star players, I mean, Cal McGregor didn't have the greatest game. So, I mean, you could go to Alistair Johnson wasn't himself, and even the defence in some situations. And just to bring the comments back in again, Alistair Jack, point gain, lads. Jed Thomas, don't be surprised if Sevco tried the same tactics at Motherwell on Sunday. They're desperate to beat us and we'll use any dark arts. Hoops boy, that will be the batteries off. The 99 Ibrox along with the eggs Benedict. Scott High had sheep score when Sevco couldn't even score. Again, we're all celebrating that win for Aberdeen, but it's just a wee tiny bit of concern that we haven't hit top gear, and this week comes a big game.
I think just to touch on what you said as well here, Stephen, sorry Ross, a couple of weeks ago when we played Hibs, kind of similar sort of game, but we got over the line that day, obviously, and it was very nearly a mirror image with O coming in for a very similar angle, and he just couldn't get the ball on target this time. But I think you were bang on. I think like the crowd that day, it was like, we can't drop any points before the derby, and they were shooting that ball into the net. The way it was, the way the atmosphere was, it was a lot more frenzied. Probably, I don't know if you felt the same, but on Saturday there was like you say, the booing and the frustration, but that was more with Motherwell's antics. But there was also that kind of element of the support where it was like you were urging them on, but there was still like a large section just sort of like, I don't know, league's won anyway. It's not, that's not a criticism necessarily, but that kind of frenzied atmosphere near the end, it just wasn't there. But the way it normally is when it's all square at Parkhead with a few minutes to go.
That brings me back to what I said at the start. It felt like the only time Celtic turned up with complacency in their game, whether that's seeping down from the stands or in their actual mindset. Like the league's won, it shouldn't be like that. And I know players have off days, but that's how I felt in my own personal thoughts, that we just turned up expecting to win, and every time we do that, we end up getting the point took off as they're losing the game. And we should be getting with that mentality. We'll get a cup semi-final, keep the machine rolling, and keep going. But it just wasn't that for me on Saturday.
I think they were sort of a bit of a catch-22 where I understand what you're saying, like keep the machine rolling, play to your top level, just go for it. But then at the same time, that wee seedy sort of doubt in the back of your mind, don't want to get injured for the semi-final, want to conserve some energy, don't go gung-ho when you don't need to. And I think they were sort of caught a wee bit twixt in between. Didn't they? It's like sometimes when you didn't really know whether you're going to have a shot or play a guy in, and you end up doing none of them. I think it was a bit like that. But it's, again, I think we're going to touch on some of the individual performances in that in a wee minute. But I think obviously you've got Jota wasn't playing, Hatate wasn't playing. Guys come in, they haven't really performed. You look at them maybe coming in and want to do well.
Love that, Willie.
Brilliant. Love that, Willie. Well played. But I can't even mind what I was saying there. That was a belter. But we'll move on. We'll move on to the player performances. I just want to touch on the midfield three. Obviously, it was McGregor, Awata, and O'Reilly that started.
Mm-hmm.
I'll come to you first, Stephen. In terms of that, I thought it worked obviously really well at Kilmarnock, and then obviously I think we spoke about after the Rangers game that with hindsight that was the midfield that probably should have started. How did you think it worked in this game? Obviously, we've touched on we never had a great performance, but I just felt there wasn't, like they were missing Hatate's legs. I didn't feel like that against Kilmarnock, but I felt like it on Saturday. What was your thoughts?
Just before I have a newcomer to the show, Joe Kern. Hi guys, great showing like our team on Saturday. We can't afford 6 players not showing their best or even near their best. But Sunday we will need to be up there giving their best, and we will hunt them for the cup. Good to have you on, Joe. But in terms of the midfield three, we were all calling for that. Do you know what I mean? The biggest issue for me, I know you said legs there. It was the wide areas. The link up wasn't the same. I mean, O'Reilly was dropping into that right forward position, trying to find Haksabanovic. He wasn't making the runs that a Jota or even a Forrest would make, and the ball was going out of play sometimes. Awada and Cal McGregor were neat and tidy for me. So, I mean, I don't think they were doing anything spectacularly wrong. I just think it was the motions of up the field was the main issue. Like, Maeda wasn't having the greatest game, and even when Awada was making them forward runs, he made them countless times. No one was finding them. As you said, people were questioning in their mind whether to make that choice of a pass or keep it for themselves, and I think one too many times we've done that. Otherwise, we could have led a few more goals and a victory. But O'Reilly, Haksabanovic didn't link up well at all. Cal McGregor was just doing as usual, but not to the extent of starting attacks every 2 seconds. And Awada coming off 2 great games, you're expecting a bit of a dip. We've seen that with Hatate. He came in running off adrenaline. Maybe Awada was the same thing, but I still have no issues if we start that midfield on Sunday. Moy, for me, as I said, I'm not gonna Moy bash until you talk about him. He's just I'll leave that until you say, because then people will say you've went on to say what you're going to say anyway. But the midfield three were good for the motions, and the main instance for me was the wide areas. I think O'Reilly was trying to find the right pass all the time. Nobody was there. Again, Haksabanovic, I know you're going to come on to him. Awada was neat and tidy, just energising through that midfield, and McGregor was just himself. And I think what Motherwell done, though, they kind of done for me what Rangers done, like you said. They tried to nullify him a bit with information. They always had like a player around them or a player marking them or nearby to press him. So I think that maybe affected the game slightly. But that comes back to it. There needs to be that fix for this Sunday coming. Because we know Beale, Mr. Ian Beale, is going to do the exact same thing and try and nullify McGregor. And if that's only out ball without a Tate, for me, that's concerning. I'm not saying they're going to beat us or anything, but I mean, even going forward into European football, if someone copies that textbook tactic and takes our playmaker out of the game with no one else to replace that, that's an issue. But as I said, not for now. I'll be still happy for the midfield for next Sunday.
Aye, I mean, I don't think, as I said, I don't think they were absolutely terrible. I don't think the whole team was absolutely terrible. But in terms of, like, my biggest, like I said, my biggest gripe was I felt they were missing the legs. It looked like they were missing the legs anyway to me. And then it was like.
But missing the legs in what instance? Because Iwata has the legs.
I know, but I don't think that it just looked like. I know he does have the legs, but on the day I'm talking about, it just didn't look like they had. It was like they were missing that sort of work rate in the middle of the park, and I don't think, like the Kilmarnock game, I don't think they interchanged as much and kind of rotated where they were playing in that three. It was too sort of rigid looking for me. I don't know what you thought, Anthony.
You're absolutely bang on, Ross. Like you said, there's no denying that. But like you said, I don't think anyone necessarily had a bad game. I think O'Reilly, especially the little reverse pass in for Coyote chip pepper, just showed that was the little glimpses of what he was capable of. Like you say, Callum was tidy without being necessarily, really, stamping his authority on the game, and Iwata sort of huffed and puffed, but it just didn't have that kind of electricity that he's brought the last couple of games. So, even as Aaron Moy's biggest fan, as you know, it would not surprise me in the slightest if that's the midfield three that he goes with on Sunday, purely with the fact that O'Reilly's had a few more games now recently, and so he'll be ahead of Moy even in terms of match fitness, if nothing else. And and to be fair to O'Reilly, he's always brought it come the derby. But yeah, there was just, you couldn't quite put your finger on it, but there just wasn't something quite there. And like we say, we've used the term, it felt like a bit of an end of season game. I think that was a pretty good way to sum it up.
I would have to agree with that. See, in terms of I don't want to touch too much on Sunday because take away for whoever's on Friday. Obviously building up to that game, but you've obviously touched on what. You wouldn't be surprised if that was the midfield three. So see, in terms of Hatate and Jota, obviously they haven't played. I think Jota's missed the last 2 games. Hatate's maybe missed the last 3 or 4. Can't mind exactly, but it's something like that. So in terms of them, Stephen, do you think that they're not going to be fit, or even if they are, they've not had enough game time? Or do you think that they're being held back and they are fit and they're just sort of waiting, like coiled springs, if you like, just waiting to get unleashed in that game?
I think that's the narrative that we'll all love to believe, that Postecoglou's doing some sort of genius tactic here and keeping their 2 best players for that game. But again, that could affect them momentum wise and stuff like that. So you need to be playing games to gather that momentum, be up to speed with the team, and if you're out for a long period of time and not training, that affects you. But in my opinion, I don't think we'll see a Tate at all in this game. I think having the Wada in the last 3 games points to what he's looking at for Sunday. I think Jota might make the bench, likewise with Abada. It all depends as well how much training they get during the week. If they only get 2 days of the back end of the week on a Thursday and Friday, why risk them? Do you know what I mean? I still don't understand why he's risking Carter Vickers when he's known to be going in for an operation after this game. I trust Kobayashi. I think he could do a job. I know Carter Vickers has been great, but the last couple of games he hasn't been quite himself, and I think it's noticeable. But in terms of them 2 players, none of them will feature from the start. I think what we're seeing now is probably similar to what team will see on Sunday, and a few issues there, in my opinion.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and again, it's one of the subjective ones. I would tend to disagree. I do think that Hatate and Jota both will start the game, and it's weird.
What gives you that thought, Lou?
Well, that's what I'm going to come on to. So, in terms of Moy, I've made the case that he came in against Rangers and he didn't have a good performance, and I think we can all agree we put that down to match fitness. And I think where Moy and a Hatate and a Jota differentiate is obviously age, and then athleticism. I concede. I don't think Aaron Moy is robotic and as slow as you'll say, but I concede he's absolutely not as athletic and speedy as a Jota or a Hatate. And I'm sort of, it looks like I'm contradicting myself, but I think a Hatate could come in, a Jota could come in, not having played the games, and come in and still affect the game in the same manner as if they'd played the last 20. Whereas Moy takes that wee bit longer to get up to speed. that's why I think they will start, and I won't have any issue with it, and I don't think it'll affect him as much. I don't know what you think on that, Anthony.
My biggest thing, to be fair, but coming up to the derby a few weeks ago in the league, and it was quite sort of obvious that, you know, they sort of said Tatati won't make it, and then we sort of pretty much kind of thought that he's not going to feature at Rugby Park either because of the plastic pitch. But I think it was just everybody was sort of saying, or a lot of people were just guessing that he would be, that it was, the injury itself wasn't as bad as previously first that worried about at the start, and that he would feature against Motherwell with the idea, as Stephen says, of getting that little bit of game time to get back in. So I think it came as a wee bit of a shock to me. I don't know if it came to anyone else, but on Friday before the match, when he announced that Hatate was out and Jota was out completely, because even Jota's injury, it was almost sort of narrated as he was okay, he just wasn't playing because of the plastic pitch at Kilmarnock. So again, that maybe fed into the sort of the kind of lukewarm atmosphere on Saturday, just with the fact your two best players aren't even on the bench. There was a lot of guys around me were mentioning that there was a bit of lack of creativity on the bench as well, although I'm sure we'll touch on it. I thought young Vata, when he came on, did very well, putting a great cross, nearly got an assist. Probably should have had an assist because you know, O had a really good opportunity to put the ball in the net. But just listening to what you're saying there, you know, you are making good points. I think Hatate and Jota, like you say, could feature without necessarily having that game time. The biggest one is you just don't want to have too many guys starting that are, you know, a bit undercooked, shall we say.
Yep.
By the way, I wasn't like saying you were wrong or that, Stephen. I totally take your points on board, and that, well, Anthony sort of alluded to it as well there, and that's why I sort of agree with you at the same time. But I mean, time will tell on that. Just coming back to obviously performances for players on the day. Stephen, I'll just come back to you. Haksabanovic, he's briefly touched on him. We spoke about it. I think it was the last time I was on last Monday. We spoke about him. It was after the Kilmarnock game, and we spoke about how, well, I sort of tried to defend him because he was getting played out in the right, and obviously that was to accommodate Maeda. For me, I think he started on the left on Saturday, but then him and Maeda did swap a lot. He got his opportunity in the left. Don't think he really took it. There was a moment when he got moved to the right, and he did cut inside, and he played one in with his left foot for Maeda. And if I remember right, it might have been the one where he slid into the post, or he maybe just missed it. Had a couple of chances like that. But in terms of his performance on the whole, what did you think it?
I don't think he's took his chance, to be honest. I really don't. The last couple of games, he's been really disappointing, in my opinion. He hasn't done anything to set the game alight. You would expect that from him. He's a Jota type player in terms of skill and creativity. So you expect him to do a lot more than fail to beat the first man on numerous occasions, lose the ball needlessly. And he just looks, I don't know what, he just looks unfit. It looks like when he does a sprint, that's him for about 10 minutes. And I don't know if that's a match fitness thing where he needs to build up to 6, 7, 8 games. And we all know the impact he has coming off the bench. But most of these games he's coming and playing a part in are games there's no pressure, that we're winning 3-1 or 4-1 at the time. And he'd come on, do his flashy skills and a couple of nice goals from the left and right in certain games. And I just don't know what it is. I was so excited to see him start. And seeing his name in the team sheet, I was buzzing because we've all spoke about it, getting a chance, and Jota being injured is that chance for him. And regardless if it's right or left, and we all know that the wingers interchange, and there was just nothing from him from the left. In fact, I think he was even worse coming in from the left, to be honest, getting moved back to the right. At least he had a few wee passes here and there with Kyogo and stuff like that. But I just don't see it with him at the minute. And for me, if he keeps going like that, he's maybe a big call here, but he's a collateral that I would be happy to get rid of in the summer.
Well, I mean, it's possibly a bit premature. I understand what you're saying. Maybe a bit premature for that, but I do like the guy, like you've alluded to there. You've seen flashes of what he's capable of, but is he only capable of the moments and fits and starts? Is he, Anthony? Is he? Dare I say, Ryan Kent?
Oh God.
Well,
God.
he's certainly a lot easier on the eye than Ryan Kent. You know, the Taylor Park murderer, as James B. Called him, which is quite fitting, to be fair. Yeah, listen, he may well be, for what it's worth. Kent's a very decent player, as we know, and he has delivered for Rangers on the big stage. You look at some of his performances in Europe last season. Haksabanovic absolutely has got all the skill in the world. He maybe lacks that wee bit of pace that would sort of set him aside for a lot of the rest of the sort of challengers to his name. But I think, as Stephen says, he's just, I don't know if it's a confidence thing or just, like he says, maybe one of these players that needs a run of games, but he looks like he's capable of doing it, when he comes off the bench. And it just, we're just going to have to wait and see how he goes. But if Jota was unfit, there's a good question. If Jota wasn't going to make it, and if we're looking like Abada and Forrest might not either, would you start him on the right on Sunday, or would you go with young Vata?
I mean, if you were going off the back of the performance on Saturday, I would probably have to say Vata. But just to take that back to you, Stephen, on Anthony's question, answer that, and then just talk about Vata's performance. I thought when he came on, he played really well. I think he's quite direct, likes to hit the byline and get the cross in as early as he can, as you've seen with the chance he set up for O. But I mean, to answer your question, Anthony, if it was Saturday, I'd go with Vata, but I would have to say you're not going to make the judgment on just Saturday, so it would probably be Haksabanovic just for his experience. But Stephen, just that to you, and then obviously what you thought of Vata's performance.
Just to come to the comments as well, Craig White, the legend, God, no, we don't play number 10, according to Michael Ross. Chris D sums it up for me. Everybody can see Haksabanovic hasn't been smashing it. There's something there, but we're all waiting. Scott Howe, lots of fans have no patience, but like Harold Shipman, Podrick Post, we had that right side triangle working really well that season when JJ O'Reilly Abada attacked. Craig White, the legend again. Ryan Kent, the unacceptable face of Scottish football. But like, in terms of it, I think it would be a bit unfair to start Fada on Sunday. He has the talent and stuff, but for me, throwing him in that game against Motherwell was even a bit unfair because he's expected to go on and do something and affect the game, and people are giving him criticism online. I've seen it and saying he's not good enough, all that, and like, calm down. He's done more than 10 minutes and Haksabanovic did in 2 games. Do you know what I mean? But because apparently he got out-muscled by Stephen O'Donnell, that's a bad thing. Stephen O'Donnell's an experienced campaigner and a Scottish right back, so he's going to have an edge over him in that instance. Rocco Vada has a lot to learn from football and professional experience, but it's like Haksabanovic to me would be like carrying a passenger on Sunday. I don't think he offers you anything going back the way, which we need, because we all know that their big threats are Barsides and Tavernier, and yeah, they're shit, but they do a lot of crosses and set pieces hurt us an awful lot. We're crap at defending them, so that worries me. And maybe look at if you put Mieta to the right and O starting off the left and Kyogo for the middle, could you do something like that? Because O played off the left for his club side in Japan on a few occasions, so maybe that could be something to look at. He's physical, he's got pace, he could probably cope with that. I just think Haksabanovic for me next week is a doubt. It's a worry because we don't know the situation with Jada. If he trains all week, I'd be happy with that. But if he only trains, as I said, the back end of the week, don't throw him in. But it looks like it will be Haksabanovic, the status quo that we've seen. But again, maybe look to something different. Can we see O coming in on the left?
Well, for me, I think if O and Kyogo both played, I think you would see O going through the middle, and I think Kyogo would go out wider. I think that happened on Saturday, if my memory serves me right, when O came
went
on.
To the right, didn't he?
But he went whatever side it was. I can't remember, but he went wide anyway, and O went through the middle. But just coming back to you, Anthony, what you thought of Rocco Vatas, and then go on to O, and then Stephen, I'll take the O question to you as well.
I can't believe it. I've not seen any of that, Stephen. But as I say, I'm not really on the other. I mean, I don't really know how Twitter works, and I'm not a Scooby how Instagram works. But I'll be honest, I've never seen much of the VAR criticism, and like you say, I totally echo what you say about it. If people are giving him stick, that's absolutely ridiculous. He came on, he did his bit, he huffed and puffed, and he had, yes, all right, Stephen O'Donnell outmuscled him a couple of times, but he beat him a few times as well. I mean, he wasn't on the pitch for an extremely long period of time in any case, but when he got the ball, he looked lively, he wanted it, he kept looking for the ball. And like I say, his there's a couple of great crosses, but it was just the way that obviously they didn't go in. If O puts the ball in the net like he should have done, everyone's praising him. But because O put it wide, everyone gets, that's the fickle nature of football supporters. Having said that, I'm also going to jump on the defence of O as well, because I think this guy's coming in for a lot of stick that's over the top as well. He scored that brilliant goal against Hibs a few weeks ago in a game we badly needed to win. His physical presence, he's been absolutely fantastic coming off the bench. Although he didn't score last week against Kilmarnock, and again it was a chance he maybe could have taken, but I didn't see again the outpouring of, oh my God, this guy's horrific. I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing a guy who's, I think you guys discussed this last week, came over for another part of the world. Not everyone can hit the ground running like Kyogo can, but I don't necessarily think he's not hit the ground running either. Maybe not in terms of goals, but he's certainly contributing when he's coming off the bench. And, you can tell that Ange certainly rates him. And like you say, I know we do it every week, Ross. It's unfair to compare him to Giakoumakis, but obviously the fact that one came out and one came in, it's just naturally what happens. But I think people forget that, Giakoumakis had that real purple period between probably late January and, late April at Celtic last season when he carried the forward line, obviously, in Kyogo's absence. But, and I obviously take into account some of it was injury as well, but by the September up until the winter break, he never featured, and when he did, it didn't necessarily look like the guy that was going to, get us over the line in the league campaign. So people have just got to have a wee bit of patience. There's sometimes an eagerness to, get on players' back sometimes for a segment of support, and I don't understand it. He's, as I say, a young guy, highly rated, but very highly rated. If you read some of the articles online, and obviously with Dan Orlowitz when he was on as well, Stephen, when you were interviewing him, he's very highly rated over there, and you can see he's got a talent. Just needs to, but maybe in a little while he'll get a run of games, he'll get a few goals under his belt, and he'll kick on. But listen, he's more than contributed in the short time that he's been at Celtic, and I'll be honest, as much as I don't think it will happen, I think naturally Kyogo will start in his usual position on Sunday. But where Kyogo, was it if he were to start the two of them, I'd be all for it, to be perfectly honest.
I don't know if I would start the both of them. I think I would either go
one or the other.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If he did do it, I wouldn't be raging. But I think in terms of the last few games we've played against Rangers, I think Kyogo picks up the wee pockets just in the sort of penalty spot area. And once we get in behind him, he's like deadly in that position. But
he's a good physical presence to come off the bench, in fairness. Some of it different as the game goes on.
But in terms of I said it last week that, like you, Anthony, he's done pretty well since he's come in. But again, I said it last week, he needs like a pre-season under his belt.
Yep.
He's just come into a team, he's learning a new culture and all the rest of it, and it's a settling in period. Like you say, no everybody can hit the ground running like Kyogo, but I think, again, I'll say it, a good pre-season under his belt, settling in, knows the guys more, knows the way we're working, the sort of he starts to understand what Ange is wanting him. think you'll see the best deal. But in terms of his performance on Saturday, Stephen, and just in general, just touch on him.
Yeah, I mean, just to come to the comments here, Mark Nugent, kind of what you're saying there, Anthony. Every player that comes to our league gets interviewed and asked what's different from their old league to hear every time they say it's physical. So getting used to that is a big issue in terms of as well. I know he's a physical guy, but he's coming from the K League, which doesn't really have that physicality of Scottish football. Stubbsy's horse, we can pontificate, I'm not saying that all day, but Angelos, pontificate. But Angelos knows best. Whoever runs out will do the business. I have no fears for Sunday.
That's good.
Let me see. Christy, got a feeling the Lands is done with a bat. I hope I'm wrong, but you get that feeling. We all got that feeling pretty early on with Jack and Mac. I think the big issue here is Klinsmann is a lot to blame for this. Since Klinsmann watched he hasn't been great, let's be fair. It seems to be playing on his mind or something. But the comparison with Giakoumakis, it's like the Awada and Hatate comparison. Do not compare as players. They're two totally different players. Giakoumakis is an out-and-out finisher, like he's proved in the MLS. 5 goals and 5 stars. Well done to the big man. Congratulations. Is a far more technically gifted player. He can come in off the left. Has a great first touch. He can use his body. He can turn players. He has pace to burn, by the way, more than Giakoumakis ever did. And people are saying about this Fada cross, he should have buried it. But I've looked at it again. It was really quick. It was up in the air for about 2 seconds past his head, and he was making the jump. Stretch. He was on the stretch as well. So I mean, it would have been a hard goal to get, no matter if you're the world's best striker like Benzema, for example. To go back to Rocco Vada, I thought he did great, and the whole Stephen O'Donnell thing, I don't get it at all. He's coming into a team fresh, and people are saying from the Lowland League, you're playing against fucking part-time players, and you're coming up the first team to train. It's going to take you a while to adapt. You have to expect that in the modern day football. Getting the flack, people saying he's not good enough. Someone in the comments said he reminds them of Carton Cole. Do not see that at all. I think O's going to turn out to be a fantastic player for us. And if Klinsmann makes a beeline for Rugby Park to watch then there's something to look out for. And even when Dan Orowitz was saying to me, we were talking about the transfer negotiations with his old club Blue Wings in the K League, and they did not want him to go at all. They held out and held out and held out for the biggest transfer fee they could get. And he said that's pretty unusual for Asian football to try and keep hold of their star player. He kept him up. People are also saying he doesn't have the experience needed. He single-handedly kept his Korean club up by himself because they were fighting relegation. He scored the playoff goal to keep them up as a young boy, 2021. So he's been there. He's done things. He's fought relegation. He's played in a high-pressure environment. Yeah, maybe not for Celtic into the level and world scale. That's fair enough. But give the guy a chance. As Anthony said, we were all slating Giakoumakis after that penalty kick miss at Livingston. He's never going to make it. His first touch, ridiculous. Kyogo gets injured. We were all talking, we don't know what's going to happen with Giakoumakis. Then, bang. Once he gets the form, he's in front of the goal, he's scoring. And I expect the exact same from Mosey. If Kyogo dropped out injured tomorrow for a couple of weeks, I wouldn't have no hesitation throwing him in. I think he offers us something different. The physical aspect mixed with the technical side of things, and he'll come good. And you have to remember, he's off the back of a full season in the K League, and we'll have to slowly drip feed him in. Once he gets this full pre-season under his belt, I think we'll be flying, 100%.
Aye. I agree with everything you've just said there. And I think as well, he's only 21.
Yeah, 21.
I mean, people compare him, and I know I don't like it, but you can't help it, and I do it myself. Giakoumakis is, I think, 27. He's got 6 years more experience than him. And it's not as much of a culture shock for him coming to Celtic. But like Anthony alluded to, he didn't hit the ground running. And he's got a lot more stuff on his side than what O has. But, I mean, that's us sort of touched on Saturday's game. We've looked ahead a wee bit slightly to the semi-final on Sunday. But we'll move on and we'll bring in a wee bit that's right up Stephen Street. And we're going SPL watch or SP Hell watch, whatever you want to call it. But we're looking at a few different players that are based in the SPL, not necessarily Scottish, but just guys that probably Stephen more than anybody else wants to talk about. And before we go any further, we're not like saying they should sign for Celtic, but are there possibilities? Could they work? just a conversation piece, really. Since it's your thing, Stephen, I'll come to you first, and we'll just start with the boy Duke at Aberdeen. He plays off the left. I don't know if it's necessarily off the left of a front three, but he'll come in off the left. He probably can play in a front three. In terms of possibly signing for Celtic, do you think that's a possibility? Do you think he could work for us?
Well, can I just first of all say, like you said, SPFL, what's in it, SPFL, right? Sometimes I think there's an ignorance to the players we have in our own leagues, right? We've seen Josh Deutsch go over to Bologna, ripping up in Serie A. Lewis Ferguson being linked with Juventus. Aaron Hickey made the move to Bologna, went to Brentford. Now he's been linked with a £30 million move to Manchester City. And then you can go further back, the likes of John McGinn, all that type of stuff, but not to go over old ground. So we have to have one eye on our league as well. I love the recruitment we're doing. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love it. Bringing Kyogo over from Japan, Hatate, these players are top quality. But in the back of my mind, I like to see a wee bit of a Scottish core. I like to see some Scottish players coming through, given a chance, and from our leagues as well. I think there is some good talent. You mentioned Duke. He came from the same team or same youth team as Felipe Ayala, and he advised him on the move to Aberdeen. He was scoring goals for fun in the B team for Benfica. He's continued that on in his first season with Aberdeen, 18 goals from the left and playing as a front two of Miovski, who we're going to talk about. I think that's a great contribution. I know, obviously, the concern for me would be he's a left-sided player. We've got a lot of them, but I was more coming along the lines of a third option for a striker, maybe to beef out the squad a bit. I know we're going to look for better, but we've seen the squad depth isn't, I don't think, what we think it is at the minute. That bench on Saturday wasn't great. If we're looking to beef out the squad a wee bit with extra quality who can come in and do a job, I don't think Duke shouldn't be off their list. I know he's been linked with Burnley. Vincent Kompany's apparently taking a close eye on him. Aberdeen got him on a free, and they have a 50% sell-on clause to Benfica. So I don't think it's not a possibility. I think he's a good player. Every time I've seen him play against us and even Rangers, he runs them ragged. Not so much us, but definitely Tavernier. He gives him an awful time. Although that's quite easy. We've seen that down the years. But yeah, I like Duke. I think from 18 goals out wide, I really do think that's a great contribution.
Listen, I wouldn't be adverse to it. My issue is, if he's, I don't know if he can play through the middle. I'm not 100% sure on that. But if he's going to be coming in off the left, we've got Maeda, we've got Jota. I know we're unsure about Haksabanovic, but he has shown flashes. So for me, if he was a guy that played off the right, by all accounts, we could possibly lose Abada. I think he could, if he played on that side, I would be more than happy for him to come in and replace Abada, especially getting that amount of goals. That's the sort of numbers that Abada posts, but he's doing it for Aberdeen. But he doesn't play on the right. So I don't know if it makes total sense to bring another left-sided guy in unless we do get rid of one. I don't know. What do you think, Anthony, on that?
Well, you're bang on, Ross. Obviously, time will tell in the summer if any of current players on our books get moved on. Andrew's alluded to the fact that might happen, not necessarily white players, but just, some of the fan favourites in general. If in terms of the domestic league, he's head and shoulders for me the best player out with the top two. He would, I think, tick a lot of boxes. Like you say, it's the goals that he brings as well as his work rate as well. Of all the players that I know you listed in the group chat, he's definitely the one that I would say you could definitely see happening.
I mean, again, like I said, I would agree with that, Anthony. I think out of all the players in the other teams, I think he's probably about the best and the one that I would be most not wanting to come, but he'd be the one I'd be most comfortable with. But moving on to another one, the big man scored against Rangers yesterday. That's not the only reason I put him in there. It's off the back of his other performances throughout the season. But I mean, what a header that was yesterday! It was outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just come to you in this one, Anthony, and it's, I think we've all guessed it, Miovski, Aberdeen, who is he plays as the sort of central striker. we're talking about depth in terms of, obviously we've got Kyogo, we've got O. I think, personally, a third striker is something I'd like to look at. I'm not 100% convinced that he would be the guy to come in, but I'm looking at it, I'm like, does he offer something? He quite clearly offers something different for Kyogo, but then is he a bit similar to O? I'm not sure. I've not seen enough of him. What's your thoughts on him?
Like you say, if you're not seeing them week in, week out, it's hard to sort of put in to come to a kind of concrete opinion on it, mate. But from what I've seen, you're absolutely bang on. He does offer something different. And of course, the example I'm going to use again is a completely other type of player as well. But it's a similar debate to what we had when the January transfer window was coming to its end, when the rumours were about going for Kevin Nisbet as well. I think he's Miovski, Nisbet, as I say, two completely different types of player. But they're the type of players that, like you say, you wouldn't knock back the chance of having them on our books. The only difference being, the main factor being, is even if they come, they know that they've got, Kyogo's going to take a lot of displacing, and O's, he's got, like you say, once he gets a good pre-season in him, he's going to be right in contention as well. So are these guys going to be happy to come and sort of start off being the third choice striker? They might want to take the challenge and have a point to prove, and Angel, when obviously Ange signs the person as well as the player, he'd be able to work out if that's the kind of characters that they are. But yeah, in terms of the offering of something different, he definitely ticks that box.
Aye, I'm glad you sort of brought. I think somebody had mentioned about Nisbet in the comments as well there, but I'm glad you brought that up as a sort of comparison. And my thoughts. I wouldn't have had Nisbet, but I have to say, in the guy's defence, he's been injured a lot of this season, and I think he's got something like 10 goals in 14 games for Hibs in the league. 10 goals and 14 starts for Hibs, which is quite impressive, to be fair. I think I would be more leaning towards a Miovski, just because I don't think Kevin Nisbet has got the sort of physicality. He's undoubtedly a really good finisher, but I don't think he has that physicality. I think the way Celtic play, I don't think he would be suited to us. I think Miovski's a bit more athletic. He's bigger. I think he would suit us a bit more. I don't know what you think on that, Stephen.
I mean, just in the comments here, people are saying we shouldn't be looking at the SPFL. We need better. Like, this is us coming from a point of players who are starring for their club to see if they can make an impact at Celtic. And the whole first striker thing, there could be one of these players who could come in and do a job as the first striker and coming in every so often. Because I look at that argument and I think to myself, if Bayern Munich signed a player from Stuttgart, like, do you know what I mean? People are going on him, he's not good enough, but you have to see these players with better players and better quality around them. You never know what they could produce. If I look at Miovski, again, a frontman for Aberdeen, 18 goals like Duke. Two players in Aberdeen who haven't really been in great form this season, apart from when Barry Robson took over. They both be on 18 goals together is quite great. Miovski, I think it's probably a long shot with him because he's an international for Macedonia. I don't think at 23 years old he's going to want to come in and be that third choice striker. But just to give him a mention, I thought his header against Rangers was fantastic. He left McGregor for dead. He peeled off Barisic, like we always see at Bala doing. Barisic is awful at defending at the back post, and he took advantage of that and put that header past McGregor fantastically well. It's just, this is what I love to see in the SPFL. The ambition, like Aberdeen are going to make some money off Duke. They're going to make money off Miovski. Go to these different countries and build your team like that and recoup transfer fees, and you could spend more and try and compete with the likes of us. That's the only way you're going to do that in that kind of model. And to have two players like Miovski and Duke on the 18 goals together, I think that's not to be sniffed at. Yeah, out of both of them, I'd take Duke. I think for the flexibility, 100% would be Duke.
Aye. Just what you're touching on there about that sort of Aberdeen's teams like that building their team that way. I think that's obviously how Ange wants to do it. He says, paraphrasing, but he said like, aye, I know there is plenty of examples, but aye, Ange has sort of said like we bring in a player and then sell him for more. Then the player you replace him with, you buy him for more money than what you bought that guy for, and that's how you build. That's how you sort of grow your squad and hopefully get better. On paper, it sounds good. We'll move on to another guy, and we'll just touch on a guy we spoke about earlier in the podcast, Anthony. In fact, I'll come back to you on this, Stephen. Kevin Van Veen. He's obviously got, I think he's got 20 goals. Well, Brown Warrior put it up. He's got 20 league goals, I think. For me, again, you're looking at that third striker. We spoke about physicality. He showed on Saturday that he's certainly physical. He's certainly got a bit of pace about him. 1-on-1, he showed Greg Taylor a clean pair of heels. But the issue for me would be he's 31. I think he's just that wee erring on the side, just a wee bit too old for the way we play. And like Ange brings in guys that are getting 4 and 5 year deals. You're not going to give him a 4 or 5 year deal. And the very fact that he's linked to Rangers, no thanks, no for me. What do you think?
I think he's on 24 goals in all competitions, was another great return for a striker who doesn't possibly get the chances that we create. For me, if I had to make a comparison, I don't laugh. This is just a comparison. He could be like how Weghorst is to United, that experienced head up front to bring on in the latter stages of the game or start a cup game here and there. I know they signed him on loan from Burnley because he was playing in Holland, but it's that type of experienced head that we've had previously in the past. I mean, you can look at guys like quote unquote Carton Cole coming in to do that type of job. Didn't really work out, but you know where I'm kind of going. The guy over 30 to be in the change room to bring on and stuff like that. But the Van Veen, as I said, and you rightly said there, Ross, I think he's probably past the point of a big move. I think maybe like a Sevco for a year for on a couple of £100 a week might suit him to keep the lights on for his career. I think he's a good goal scorer. I think Motherwell have had lots of them down the years. Scott McDonald, do you know what I mean? He came to us and banged them in. And it's kind of a staple of their attack. They always have one guy who bangs in the goals. David Clarkson, further down the years, Ross McCormick. But yeah, I think like for me, he's a good striker. He left Taylor for dead, and he wouldn't suit our style. That's what I was saying to him. But another great mention.
Aye, well, I mean, you say a great mention. You compiled some of the list, and I compiled some of it because you're a bit more. Aye, but you're more of an SPL watcher than probably the rest of us put together. Aye, Anthony, just on Van Veen, what are your thoughts on that as a potential signing?
Yeah, sort of just for the reasons he's outlined, Ross. That it's probably unlikely, obviously age and everything else. But there was me on Saturday night. I think I was, sort of enlightening the group with some, great insight going. There's the way he plays, he'll be at Rangers next season. And obviously, he is like it. Do you know what I mean? I've not seen a paper in a few weeks, but I think he's got a more. I know that sounds a bit that, but he would look quite suited to Rangers, and so I can't see it happening. But listen, his stats for this season are incredible. You say if you're playing for Motherwell and there's a few games yet, it's not beyond the realms of possibility he could hit 30 goals. It's tremendous, tremendous numbers for an SPL player.
Aye, it absolutely is. But again, I look at it. How many years has he been at Motherwell? A couple of seasons at least.
Second season.
Was that only second season? Is it? That sort of dispels my argument I was going to put forward. I was going to say he's never really had any numbers in the previous seasons, but if it's only one season, then that shows you how much I know. Do you know what I mean? But we'll move on. Another guy who I don't really know a lot about. Stephen, you had suggested this guy, Josh Campbell. I think he's for Hibs. Now, he's a midfielder. I don't know if he's an attacking midfielder. But I look at it in the sense, you look at the midfielders we've got and you look at the pecking order. Obviously, you've got Hatate, McGregor, O'Reilly, Moy, I don't know if Moy will be, well, I don't know if he'll be here beyond the next 1 or 2 years. But then you go further down and you look at a David Turnbull, who is getting substitute appearances, but he's, with the greatest of respect, not going to push his way into that midfield three as a first choice anytime soon anyway. A Josh Campbell, I know he's only maybe 21.
22.
Is he 22? Well, David Turnbull's 23. Is Josh Campbell better than David Turnbull?
Player profile wise and box to box ability, I'd say probably is. He's more athletic, more stamina about him. Maybe not skill wise, but that's what Turnbull's best attribute is for us. And I think with Josh Campbell, he scored a wonder goal, I'm pretty sure, against Sevco earlier in the season, and that's when I first caught eyes of him. And I thought he ran the midfield. They have obviously like Jake Doyle-Hayes and Joe Newell and players like that, and Josh Campbell stood out like a sore thumb for me. And the way he gets about the pitch, the way he can control the ball and spread a pass, and for me, that for years, that's what Hibs lacked in the midfield. They weren't really composed playing the big teams, and they were always panicking when they have the ball. But this guy seemed to be able to take the ball under pressure, and he's 6 foot. He's been on loan to Arbroath, Queen of the South. He's earned his stripes, and I looked that up on Wikipedia, proud of myself. and for me, I think he can come in and jump ahead of the right few players in our squad, the likes of James McCarthy. Yeah. I think he could jump ahead of Turnbull. Just for potential ways.
I could jump ahead of James McCarthy.
Just potential ways. I mean, he's probably the next player I'd say would make a move to either Serie A or the Premier League and the Scottish Premier League as well. I think he plays a bit like Lewis Ferguson, off the cuff, getting into the box for headers, all that type of stuff, and he gets stuck in. He likes to tackle. Probably again another comparison would be like a Barry Robson type player, just kind of 50-50s. He loves that challenge and. He's one to watch out for. He'd be one I would take a punt on, no bother next season, just to have around. And like a Kobayashi, drip feed him in, and I think he'd be a fantastic addition because I wanted us to sign Lewis Ferguson, and I don't really care about the links he has previously in his past. I thought, again, he was probably the best player outside the top two, like Anthony said about Duke when he was here. Even Calvin Ramsey, we missed the boat on him. And there's only so many players you can miss the boat out on in your own league, Ross.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I think it's hard to say miss the boat. Ange, we've got a wide network, and it's a bit different. I know, like, we're talking about this, and it is quite a good topic, but I think it's different to when, like, say, Martin O'Neill and Gordon Strachan were picking up guys for this league, because they didn't have that sort of as wide a network to fall on as what Ange's got. I mean, we're talking about these guys. I don't envisage Celtic signing any of these guys, but it's good to talk about it and even just. You're
giving me the 15 minutes. You're giving me the 15 minutes.
But it's to make us more aware of some of the guys in our league who are doing quite well. And your knowledge on that guy there is quite good because I don't really know a lot about him. And Anthony, I'm just going to assume that you're the same as me and you don't know a lot about him either.
Well, the top ones. That you put in the group chat, I'm a bit more. I think up until we get to the lad at Dundee United, who I can't remember his name now. Off the
Dylan
top of my head. Levitt. Seen a bit of him. Watching on the telly, and he does look pretty decent. It was the other ones that you mentioned. I'm going to be next to useless here, but no, the lad at Hibs, like you're saying, it's a tricky one because of the position he plays, and we're pretty stacked in that area, but. The one thing I would say in his favour, anytime I've watched Hibs on the telly and whatever, or on the sports scene highlights, he does feature a lot. And the thing is, as well, Hibs have always had a pretty decent track record. They've always had a good conveyor belt of players coming through, and we've obviously, just recently, a couple of years ago, a very a guy, Celtic, modern day Celtic legend, started his career at Hibs, so like you say, Ross, different eras, different times. But yeah, Hibs you can normally rely on for being, not having an eye for a player. And whatever I've seen of him, he looks decent. But whether or not that's going to be enough to ever do anything at Celtic would be totally different kettle of fish.
Listen, it's hard for me to say one way or another because I really haven't seen a lot of the guy. I like the way you talk about him, Stephen. But we'll move on to Anthony. I'll just come back to you because you mentioned Dylan Levitt. We'll move on to him. Just what you think. I think he's a really, really promising looking young player. Like him, he's always impressed me anytime. And again, I only see him when, admittedly, when they're playing Celtic, but he's been very good. I think it was, if I remember right, I don't know if it was the game where we clinched the title last season or the game before that when we played them at Tannadice. Whatever one it was, he was very impressive in that game. In Celtic, I think it must have been the one they drew and when they clinched the league. But he's been very good, that guy as well, Monty, to be fair. He's not on my list actually, but he should have been because he's been very good for St Mirren. But Dylan Levitt, a promising young player. What I say, he's quite young, 21 maybe. I'm not 21. Again, it's that midfield. It's difficult to break him in, but like Stephen says, drip feed him in. I would take Dylan Levitt at Celtic. Whether he could make the grade is down to him, but he has to. If he comes in and he works hard, he gets his chance, he takes it. You never know, but it's a difficult one to say the now. But he could quite. He's got all the talent for me.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And like you say, whenever I've watched him as well, the word I would always kind of use to describe him as composed. Like he's always kind of calm on the ball. He doesn't do silly things with a football. There's some players that you can see they've got all the talent in the world, but they can be quite wasteful when they're with the ball when they're youthful. Especially obviously Dundee United haven't had a great season. They're down the bottom six again. But if you're at a club where it's everyone's fighting for scraps and trying to avoid that playoff place, he's still been a standout. And even obviously they've got a lot of senior players as well. Your Fletchers and your Mulgrews. He still looks the standout for me. I think you're bang on, Ross. I think he wouldn't let moving to Celtic phase him. I think there's a lot of guys that they've got all the skill in the world, and the minute they come to Celtic, it's rabbit in the headlights. I get the sense that it wouldn't be like that with this guy.
Aye, I would agree with that. All the guys we're sort of going to talk about, Stephen, he's the one that I would most definitely say if Celtic went for him, I'd go, aye, absolutely. I've no qualms. The rest, you can make arguments. Obviously, you can make arguments in terms of his age and stuff like that, but like I've said, he doesn't need to go straight into the team. But I think he's a very, very good talent. Just talk about him and what you think. And I'm just going to nip away. You can talk to Anthony. I'm going to get a drink.
Well, first of all, he came from good stock in the Manchester United Academy. He came off the back of being voted the Player of the Year in the Academy. I mean, we've had experience that with Sally Yanko in terms of, but he didn't turn out to be great. One thing I love about Dylan Levitt is the fact that he can take the ball under pressure. He can play the simple pass and also play that defence splitting pass as well. He's a Welsh international, over 13 caps on him. I think that's a good thing to have behind him, international experience playing for ourselves. And I look at him in that Dundee United team, and again, you have Fletcher, like you said, you have Mulgrew, but for me, there's just something, wee bit of stardust about Dylan Levitt. And it may be a quite bold statement here, but if I could pick one player to replace McGregor when he retires, it'd be Dylan Levitt out of the SPFL, because I think he plays that role really well for United, and in a team with better quality players, I think he'd be an absolute steal. They got him for like 150k. You're looking at upwards of 3 million for him now, probably in today's market in that league. And I just think that he is the Cal McGregor mould. If you're looking at that from that league, from the SPFL, obviously we can replace him from a wider circle and scouting community. But if you told me now, replace McGregor from player in our league, Dylan Levitt all day. I think he has bags of potential. He scored a few wonder goals, absolute quality goals, free kicks, right and left footed. Probably same stature as Cal McGregor. Can take the ball, can turn players, can play that pass. And for Dundee United to get him off Manchester United for that price is some gold, by the way, because I know they fought off him really handy. He played in a few Europa League games before he left them. And I just think for me, he stands out like a sore thumb, like Josh Campbell for me, Ross. And them two players at earmark for future moves to big clubs.
Listen, you've said there that's a bit of a statement. he could be a replacement for Cal McGregor, but I totally take on board what you've said, and it's similar in a sense. When Kieran Tierney left Celtic, my first port of call was Greg Taylor, a guy who came for a team in Scotland. He's a Scottish player, and there was scepticism, but look how that's turned out. And I know he's playing a role now at Celtic that's more suited to the way Greg Taylor plays than when he was being asked to be the overlapping fullback, which he's not. But coming inside suits him better, and he's thriving in that role. But I mean, it's time would tell on Dylan Levitt, but you can see that he's a classy player, and he definitely stands out. In, like I think it was Anthony had said, he used the word composed. I think that's bang on, and that is one player most definitely I would take at Celtic in a heartbeat, no problem. But we'll move on to another guy. I don't know anything about this guy. I know he's a right back, Max Johnston. We've already got our own Johnston at right back. We've got what do you call him? Anthony Ralston. I think for him to come in, again, I don't know enough about him, but we've already got two very able right backs. In fact, we've got one very able right back and one absolutely top draw right back, in my opinion. And I think right now, I don't think that signing would make sense, but maybe you can enlighten us a bit more on what you think of him.
I mean, AJSC Tech kind of sums up my thoughts on this. Motherwell right back also being snapped up by an EPL side. They'll be looking at more of our talent due to Brexit. This is more of a potential thing for me. Again, very late on, I would say February time, I started hearing his name and looking at his name on Twitter. He is basically like a Calvin Ramsey, like he was for Aberdeen, although he's a bit taller, a bit more stocky, a bit more built. He's athletic, like Johnson. And he played really well against us on Saturday. I just look at this situation and think, hypothetically, if we got him in, it'd be a great signing, decent signing, someone we could sell on probably for a high fee. But like you said, right back's crowded unless Ralston moves on. But I just wanted to give him a mention, Ross, because I think he's got all the ability again. I think he'll move on to like a Doig or a Hickey. He'd been in the Premier League for me in no time, and possibly the wrong time here for him to come to us, like you said, because of our we're stocked at right back. But again, he's going to be a great player. I'm on to keep an eye on for the Scotland camp, because I know Hickey plays out of position. I think he'll be in there with Nathan Patterson competing before too long.
Right. Well, you never know. What age is he?
19.
Was he 19? So I mean, he's very early in his career, but he's playing week in, week out for Motherwell, who are going pretty well now. Anthony, I don't mean to patronise you, but I'm assuming you don't know much about that guy, because if you don't, I'm going to ask you about Nubly.
Nubly, I'll second whatever Stephen said. I can't even mind what his name there had to turn the mic off for the season. But Nubly, the way it works out with Jude's football team, they sometimes get the tickets for Almondvale. So maybe 3-4 times a season, we get to head down and we'll watch a game. And as you can imagine, Ross, it's not a sort of Premiership classic anytime you're getting free tickets for a Livy game. But I'll give him his due. Anytime you've watched him, he's one type of player that the ball sticks to. He's got a wee bit of flair about him. Kind of a physical player as well. So yeah, as I say, he's a rare high point in what's often a pretty drab afternoon. Because there's, if there's nothing worse than going to a Livy game, there's nothing worse than going when you've got the wee boy and you can't even have a baby in the bar beforehand.
Like yourself, Anthony, on Nubly, I watched them at the start of the season. I think they drew with Rangers first game of the season. I thought he was very good that day. He gave him made the arse at Parkhead with the pass back. What do you call him again? Suter, aye. He gave him a torrid time that day. I seen it. I went to the Livy Hibs game, and he was outstanding that day as well. For such a big guy, Stephen, I think he carries the ball so well, and he's I don't know what the word is, but he's really good on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good on the eye for such a big guy. Like say, you wouldn't see a Peter Crouch doing the things he does. I know he's not quite as tall as Peter Crouch, but you get my sentiments. In terms of, again, I really like him as a player. Earlier in the season, before we signed I said maybe he could be that sort of backup to Kyogo and the Giakoumakis. What do you think? Could he be that sort of backup to Kyogo and or do you think he wouldn't really be up for coming into Celtic as a third choice striker?
I mean, to be fair, to a lesser extent, is he like a Samaras type player? The way he holds that ball and can glide past players to a lesser extent.
He's maybe not got the same speed, but I get what you're saying.
No, definitely not. He turns like water, or turns like a milk. But I think at one point in the season he only had 3 league goals and 2 of them are against Rangers. So good luck him when he could be. What I like him. What is it?
Sign him up, he said.
what I like about Nubley is, I mean, he's most of his league career he's been lower leagues of England. He went to Arbroath and got his chance with Livingston. 27 years old. Good profile about him. He's a standout player for Livingston. I think they have the likes of Omiyonga playing for them and Obel guy at centre back. Fitzwater, who is a good centre back as well. But Nubley, for me, would be decent for like a Hearts or a Hibs. I think the step up to us might be a bit too much for him. But again, to have him on that list because he's been a standout player for Livingston. He doesn't score a lot of goals, but what he does do, he offers them a focal point to get their attacking players up, the likes of maybe Jason Holt or the Shinnie guy, Andrew Shinnie. Players like that can get in and around them and try and Bruce Anderson, try and get the flick-ons and get the goals that they need. But yeah, I think that Nubley for me, I mean, you see him against Celtic as well. He just takes that ball in and rolls players.
Yeah.
Maybe O's possibly like that as well, but more speed. But yeah, I like Nubley. Be interesting to see where he goes next. I know Martindale's pushing for a fee for him, and he's obviously Livingston have lost money in their accounts and stuff. So I think they'll sell him on, whether it's a Championship side, League One. But I'd like to see him stay in Scotland. So I'd like to see him go up to a Hearts or a Hibs to see what he can do because with more service, I think he'd be an absolute unit, be a beast.
He's very well suited to the way Livy play. Like you say, Livy most of the time they'll sit back, try and be difficult to break down. Then he's a good out ball for them, especially the way he carries the ball and gets them up the park. Coming to a Celtic, I don't know if he looks like a really, really good player in a very, very average Livy side. But I think, like you say, he could possibly make the step to a Hearts, Hibs. Motherwell would even, I could look at him and he'd do well. But in terms of Celtic, I don't know. I don't know if he could make that step up. Finally, the last guy on the list, we'll just go back to you, Stephen. I don't mean finally, as in, thank God that's over. I mean, finally, this is the final guy. But it's the St Mirren player, Bacchus. Again, I've seen him a couple of times this season. Anytime I've seen him, I've been quite impressed with him. Whether he could make the step up to Celtic, you just never know. But your thoughts on him?
I think Bacchus, I mean, he played in the World Cup for Australia, so again, for St Mirren to have a player starring on the biggest stage of them all is a great coup for them. I like I like him as a player. I think he's graceful, a wee bit like Dylan Levitt, but he was part-time most of his career with, I think it was Western Sydney in Australia, in their second league, so he's making that step up to professional football, I think, for the first time, and Australia, like what they see. Mark Nugent, thanks for saying Barcast. No, Bacchus that plays for St Mirren in midfield. Postecoglou probably knows of him. I think as well, like with the likes of him, it would have surprised me if he would end up in a club like us. Do you know what I mean? He's just one of them players that I think could make that move, and he looked really well in the World Cup. He played most of the games for Australia. Likewise with fucking what he called Atkinson for right back for Australia. He plays for Hearts, so they're pretty well represented from Scottish clubs, and they did fantastically well. So yeah. I like what I see of him. He scores goals as well. He gets into the box, arrives late like a Rio, not the Pacific skill level. And Brown Warrior saying none of the players mentioned are anywhere near the level of Moose in the Belly. Again, we're not saying that. It's just come round the houses and see who maybe could come in and fill out that squad or make an impact. And Bacchus, for me, one to watch out for. Still quite young, Ross, and maybe could make the jump to a championship team in England.
Well, I mean, at some point he is going to leave St Mirren. I know that's quite an obvious thing to say, but it's because he is he's probably that wee bit too good to continue playing at St Mirren for a sustained period of time. But again, it's a difficult one to say whether he can make that jump up to Celtic. The way the Celtic squad is now, Anthony, for me, you look at it and these guys we've talked about, they could bulk out the squad, but we're looking towards the Champions League next season. Touch on Bacchus, and then would you rather we were bringing guys in to improve the first 11 on what we already have, rather than bulk out the squad?
Yeah, what you just said there, mate. I think we've rightly mentioned all these guys tonight because there's no doubt that they're having great seasons for all their respective teams. But I just feel that the way we are at the minute, we've got that sort of big club swagger that I've mentioned, I've talked about a few times, where we are everything about the club, even all the off the field matters and stuff. Everything just seems to be moving in the same direction, and I actually feel one of the subjects I talked about on Friday night or oddsometer sort of thing was the idea of us perhaps breaking our transfer record at some point, either this season or next, and I think that might just be the case purely because of obviously we've got the guaranteed Champions League money in, and potentially we might have another player sold as well. I think it's just the kind of groove that we're in at the moment, that these guys, for all that they're talented, if they were to be bought, it would be very much like you say, a filler signing, rather than the sort of blue chip ones that I think we might get more used to signing in the coming transfer windows.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that's what every fan wants, really. But and by the way, I'm talking about across the board with every club, not just ours. But I mean, Stephen, you yourself, you've said enough times that you want to see Celtic signing Champions League ready players. I think it's very difficult for us to do. But again, I'll go back to that question. Obviously, you like to promote our game, if you like, and the talent that's in our game, not only Scottish players, but whatever nationality they might be. But again, that question, would you rather we were signing these guys to bulk out the squad, or again sign guys that can improve the first 11 on what is already a very good first 11?
I think the main priority is obviously getting into every transfer window to come out stronger. We need the same players who can make an impact on the team and probably better than our star players. We talked about it on Friday, Anthony. We can potentially see the impact of first team regulars at the minute becoming squad players next season if we sign better and more quality, which would be a great scenario to be in. The way I'm coming across with the SPFL players is, if you sign a Duke, if you sign a Josh Campbell, Dylan Levitt, these three guys for me come in with huge potential, young age, and then you get rid of McCarthy, you get rid of Moy, you get rid of older players like that. So you take them out, obviously, before you bring the fillers in. With the quality side of things, of course I want better. Of course I want better than Greg Taylor. I want better than Starfelt. I want better than every player in the park. We all do. But it's the issue, can we spend? It's the issue, can we afford to spend 30, 40 million in one window? I don't think that's going to happen, but I agree with what Anthony said. We both agreed. We will break our transfer fee coming up shortly in the next two windows, I believe. We'll have to. We need to make that inroad and ambition. I mean, for long years there, it was 6 million, then it went to 7 with Julian, then went to 9 with Odds and Edwards. So we need to keep that upward trajectory going with transfer fees. Obviously, proven players, and they need to be scouted well. Otherwise, it's just fucking stupid. We need to be safe still as a club. We all know that. But yeah, young players like Ben Summers, Rocco Fata, Bosun Lawwell coming through the ranks, that bodes well for the next coming seasons. Postecoglou said it himself, they're going to get a chance. And then you sprinkle that with a bit of talent from our league as well, and then stardust from European football, which we desperately need for the Champions League next season.
Well, that is the dream, kid. I think we can all agree that probably the standout of that list would have to be Dylan Levitt. I think he's the one that...
That would be Josh Campbell.
Oh, would it? Oh, yeah. Well then, fuck you. I'm only kidding. No, I'm only kidding. But listen, that was a sort of good wee a bit different, if you like, than talking about just solely Celtic. Obviously, you don't know. It's highly likely that we won't sign any of the players. But again, it was a good wee chat. But moving on, I want to touch on, obviously, we dropped points this weekend. Rangers dropped points this weekend, or Rangers lost. But Anthony, in terms of obviously their results at the weekend, do you think that could hopefully stave the rest of the league is shite narrative? And what will the next reason be for Celtic going to win the league, other than the fact that Celtic are just really good?
Oh, mate, well, I'm trying to think of all the different ones. I mean, I think it was the way the wind was blowing yesterday, wasn't it? That was the reason they lost. It wasn't anything to do with the fact that Aberdeen outthought them. Apparently, it was a wee bit blustery, so that's the reason they got beat. Listen, it's quite sickening actually when you read what we all know is absolute garbage. And me and Stephen spoke about this on Friday night. The established media and the established clubs or club in this country, they just cannot see, or they don't want to admit, they're still pandering to the lunatic fringe of their support. Like, rather than just being upfront and saying, you've got to give Celtic credit, they are by far and away the strongest team. And, it's up to us to try and, overtake that. The way that Martin O'Neill did when he first came in, when Rangers were the benchmark under Dick Advocaat. But the problem with these people is you put a microphone in front of them and they just cannot help themselves. Yeah. There's something at that club that they just cannot, they can't get it out their system. As I say, I've been saying that to Stephen on Friday night. They've got this misplaced sense of, superiority and supremacy above the rest of the league. Which is quite a strange habit to have when you constantly seem to be finishing second or third even in a lot of cases. But it doesn't matter what
boom.
Is there now a gap between Aberdeen and them? Quite possibly, exactly.
Well, there is. Aberdeen's ahead of them.
they can only, they will twist any narrative to suit their own false outlook on like you say, Michael Beale will chat about his record and the previous good record against Celtic, but prior to when he actually played them as the manager, he's trying to pass off Steven Gerrard's record as his own, but yet the minute anything good, anything involving Giovanni, that was nothing to do with me. It's like it's just basically they'll. And the media, but he knows he can get away with it because the media won't call him out on it because they don't want to upset the boat. We know that our eyes don't lie to us, Ross. Celtic are by far and away the best team in this country, and the table doesn't lie either. And the league table that you see now, from the goal difference to the points gap, that's the difference between Celtic and Rangers. There's levels to this game, and we are streets ahead of them.
Here, kid. But the narrative though that's been painted that everybody else in the league is shite, and even like I'm talking about everybody after Rangers, Stephen, and it's getting on my nerves now. Like, because Celtic and Rangers for the turn of the year have basically won every game, obviously up until this weekend where Rangers lost and Celtic drew, and obviously Celtic had beat Rangers a couple of weeks ago. But other than that, both teams have been near perfect, and they're starting to, like the media and stuff, basically saying the gap is massive and the rest of the teams are shite, for want of a better word. And it bugs me because you look at it, right, and you look at the English Premier League. Now, Celtic this season could break the points tally, right, which is obviously what they're hanging on to. If Celtic do that, it's because everybody else is rubbish. It's not because Celtic have been brilliant. But Celtic have been brilliant. But you look at Man City and you look at Liverpool. They were breaking points tallies. Liverpool finished second with whatever, I think it was 97 points or something like that. It would have won the league every season for the previous 25 or something like that. Nobody was saying the rest of the league was shite. Man City running away with leagues, breaking records, goal scoring records, left, right, and centre, because they're a very, very good team. It's not because the rest of the league is shite. It's because Man City are so far ahead of the rest of them because they're so good. And it's similar for me with Celtic, but the media down there don't paint and shoot down their league to take it away from Man City. But this media will shoot down this league. They'll shoot down the whole league to take it away from Celtic before they would just give Celtic and talk our game up.
I mean, as Tom McManus said, it's unhealthy for Celtic's dominance. Is it unhealthy for Bayern Munich to dominate the Bundesliga for 20-odd years? I don't think so. The product over there in Germany is thriving. And if the media portrayed it like that for us, this country and this football league would be thriving in itself and better TV deals would come out of that. I mean, you just have to look at it. Michael Beale was blaming the wind before he actually criticised his own team and said they weren't good enough. Do you know what I mean? It's an excuse culture that's built into Scottish football. It's either the good or the bad, isn't it? We're always the bad side. If we're winning, it's an excuse. Motherwell, for example, weren't at the races, or we're too good, we're streets ahead, or we're levels above. And I look at the Rangers side of things, and I'm like, what's going on? All the praise they receive after dross performances, the win 2-1, and they've soared to an excellent win. Do you know what I mean? 3 talking points of the game. They were instrumental. Ryan Kent was the world's best, greatest player. It's absolutely incredible. The media buys him in Scotland's alive and kicking, even more so since Michael Beale's come in. I would go as far as to say, now, it might be a wee bit of a biased opinion, but I think Hearts and Aberdeen, undone by mismanagement during the season, their squads for me are on comparison to the Rangers. And we've seen that Aberdeen, they had no fear. It's even they played with no fear. They were on a 6-game winning run, and they extended that to 7 quite easily, in my opinion. No matter what Michael Beale likes to portray, I thought Aberdeen could have scored a couple more in that game. They were on top for large parts of it. I looked at their midfield. They overran their midfield. Raskin was hiding. I'm waiting on Todd Cantwell making another TikTok about his performance, and it's just baffling. And I look at Hearts' team. They've got a Japan international. They've got Shankland. They've got Josh Ginnelly. They've got Gary Mackay-Steven. They've got all these good players in their own individual rights. And if they were managed properly, I think they could make a real case for challenging Rangers for second place. And I know some people may say that's way ahead of their stall. They're way above their level. But I really do believe this. If Barry Robson takes control of Aberdeen on a permanent basis, if they can win 7 games on the bounce, then surely they can take that into next season and perform even better. If Hearts get the right manager in instead of Stephen Naismith, I think they'll do great guns because they've got money to spend. I mean, they're in the black in terms of profit sheets, and Budge has done a great job there. So there's lots to be enthusiastic about the league, and the whole narrative that it's crap because Celtic are dominating. No, it's not. It's exciting. Like, we're going to teams with all this. Anne's just brought a brand of football to Scotland that's never seen before, and that should be celebrated. That should be shown on the TV screens, be praised to the highest. And yes, criticise us when we're bad, criticise us when we're shite. I do it all the time. We all do it. We're a podcast for a reason. We're here to make our opinions. But there's a difference with the English league. They promote their game to the highest, and that's fair enough. But we always bring ours down. That the levels of teams are crap. We know, like, let's be honest, like, we know it's not a good look going to Dingwall, there's empty seats, going to Rugby Park, there's 10,000 empty seats. But them sort of things can be fixed with dialogue and communication with people who are open and want to make money for their team. And we spoke about it. Kilmarnock would earn over £1.5 million if they give us 2 stands. Do you know what I mean? So, like, over the course of the season, they could be signing better players, improving their infrastructure. There's ways around these money things in Scottish football. The clubs, for me, failed to take, and I think it's quite embarrassing, to be honest, because I think the product should be far better than it is. That's fair enough, but we're dominating, and we should be praised for that. We're about to hopefully touch wood winner. What is it? 5 trebles in 7 seasons. Mm-hmm. We won the quad, the quadruple treble, and it was swiped under the carpet like it never happened. I've never heard nothing about it. The media barely give us a whisper. It's crazy. But see if that was on the other foot. Madness. Sure, we seen when they went unbeaten in the COVID season. They were comparing that team to Rodgers' team. Like, what the fuck? Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely insane. And I think that Scottish football needs to take a long, hard look at themselves. Neil Doncaster Maxwell, whoever runs it, needs to really rethink the whole strategy, because there's lots of ways we can improve this game, and nobody's taking it. And forever it remains like that. Will be Cundy, laughing stock. Will be Simon Jordan's pet digs. Will be Alvin Brazil, who is he? Will be all this. Will be a laughing stock of football. We need to improve the fucking game. Get your heads together and make Scottish football great again.
Aye, listen, and by the way, that's an impressive wee segue into the next one. Obviously, we can clinch the league title, Anthony, on the Coronation weekend. We were all sitting waiting the day with bated breath to see when, or to see the fixtures coming out, who and where we were going to play to clinch the title. It's not come out, obviously. There's been sort of red tape, if you like, with obviously Sky. I know, they were. Absolutely ludicrous, man. But obviously, there's the red tape with Sky and the police and stuff, Anthony. Stephen's talking about ways to improve the game. I think one of the first places we could start is just to, in my opinion, completely get rid of this stupid split. We're sitting here waiting to win a league title, and we don't know who we're going to play or where we're going to play in 2 weeks' time. It's absolutely ludicrous, and it is one of the weirdest ideas ever, the stupidest ideas ever, sorry, to have a league split at the end of a season and then have teams who are below you at the split possibly finish above you, but not finish above you. It is absolutely mental. But just on the split itself, and obviously what you think, obviously the fixtures not coming out the day like they should have. It's amateur.
It absolutely is, mate. It's absolutely pathetic, and I don't really think that by this either. Like, the police just suddenly stepping in and saying, "Oh, it definitely can't be that opening weekend." Maybe why not just get on with life and deal with any people that cause disorder accordingly?
Yep.
Deal with them rather than this whole thing with like the whole country's got to be treated with kids' gloves. It's I find it absolutely pathetic. But like you say as well, they're saying that it's because there's the fixture hiccup because somebody might be due an extra game at home or away or anything like that. These things should all be. I get that there was teams that were still waiting to see if they were going to secure their place on Saturday, but they think should have been decided in at least the week leading up to the game. People like, right, well, if such and such qualify for the top six, this will be the fixtures of such and, because they know who
absolutely
at least 4 of the 6 teams were going to be, or even 5 of the 6 teams were going to be. That should all be getting arranged. That should be part of the contract. It's just yet another. I get that it's Sky's fault this time, no the SFA's, but by the same point, they're all guilt by association for me, mate. It's just amateur hour. There's so much good about Scottish football, and it is so often brought down by the incompetence of the people that run it and the utter disdain and disrespect shown by the folk that broadcast it.
Aye, I couldn't agree more with that, Anthony. I think it must be the only league. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, it's the only league in world football where the league splits. It's just bizarre. Stephen, just follow on for Anthony, give your points on that, and obviously the fixture's not being released today. Hopefully, here's hoping they get released in the next couple of days so we can start preparing for that mentally. I know we've got a cup semi-final on the horizon, but that could determine the way Ange picks his team for the semi-final, knowing that game's on the horizon to get the league over the line.
Well, I mean, there'd be even bigger kind of circumstances if we were in a title race and you're not knowing who you're going to face. I think that would be absolutely abysmal. And as Anthony said, it's just another one to write down of the shambolic nature of Scottish football and who runs it, and Sky as well, who don't give us the right coverage. And BT Sport were far better than Sky, but that's another issue for me. The whole thing with a split, it's shocking. I mean, you could be, for example, a Motherwell finishing 7th, but end up with more points than the team in 6th. It doesn't make any sense to me in any aspect of football. I think, to be fair, we spoke about it before, there needs to be a whole league reform. I don't see why we can't have 18 top flight clubs and like two leagues below, like a League 1, League 2 in promotion. There has to be forward thinking. 12-team leagues don't cut it no more. I know it's exciting for us because we get to play the derby games and stuff like that, but I could sacrifice 2 of them for having a more competitive league. I wouldn't really bother me, do you know what I mean? It's just, if you want to look at the outer landscape of Scottish football, there has to be a way to improve it. But yeah, another shambles by the ASFA and Police Scotland getting involved and stuff. It's again, it's going against the machine, isn't it? Trying to, in any way they can, derail the Celtic machine of Postecoglou. But they're not going to do it. The league is ours. The league is coming home. Fuck them.
Aye, I mean it is, and we're one game away from a treble, essentially, with the greatest respect to the other 2 teams that one of the teams that who we could get in the final, or Rangers, whatever. But it's just an unbelievable set of circumstances, and it just pisses me off, man. Just do it right. Just get somebody in that knows what they're doing. Like, we're all guys that we're no experts, do you know what I mean? But we can all see from the outside looking in that is a ridiculous idea, and how it has been allowed to continue year on year for, I don't know how long it's actually even been going, the split. It must be close to 10 years anyway.
Over season 2000, 2001 it started, mate.
Oh, was it? Aye, was it as long as that? God
Martin's
almighty.
first season,
Where
aye.
does it? God's sake, where does the time go? But aye. By the way, that's round about the time. Obviously, I'm wearing this top tonight. 20 years to the day for Henrik Larsson put us in the UEFA Cup final. After beating Boavista 1-0. Brilliant night that night. I'll no ashes about it because probably nearer the anniversary we might do a wee rewind on that. Don't know who'll be on it, but we'll get that all sorted out. But that brings us to the end of the podcast. I've really enjoyed myself, enjoyed hosting it. Have you enjoyed it?
Loved it, mate. Absolutely loved it.
Aye. And listen, Sorry.
I'll second whatever what Stephen says there, mate. Absolutely brilliant. As I say, not the best result of the weekend, but we march on. One more win, and the trophy's staying in paradise.
Yep, here's home. But listen, we're a Monday night. I'm more on a Friday, but we're nearly at 2 hours here. We've done all the talking points. I'm going to do a wee penalty shootout again, like I did the last time I hosted, and it was on the last time as well, ironically. So you know how it works. It's a penalty shootout format. You have a go each. It's a list. Now, this list, there is only 10 on it. So, but I don't expect you to get all of them right. I expect one of you to slip up along the way. But so I don't know how we got to do who's got to go first. What did they do
Anthony won first. He should go first. Anthony won the last.
Right, okay. Okay, we'll do that. Right, so the question is, name the last 10 Celtic players to be sent off in a competitive match. So obviously you have a go each, 5 penalties, and then whoever gets the most wins.
Okay. Callum McGregor.
Callum McGregor is on the list. He got sent off October 22 at home at a league match against Motherwell. That was he got sent off again, but obviously there's a couple of guys who have been sent off more than once, but it only counts for one. So Callum McGregor's right, Anthony.
Fuck's sake. Last 10 players. What the fuck? You winded me up here. Jeez, oh.
I'll tell you before we go any further. It obviously for present day, and it dates back to 2019, February 2019.
Jesus Christ. Jozo Simonovic.
He's not on the list. Too far back, kid.
Did I lose then? Or is that 1-0?
No, that's so it's penalty shootout, so you've missed one.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's quite I think I would say some of these how far back we go. Christopher Julian.
is not on the list.
Oh, jeez. Oh. Who the fuck?
I thought he'd have done a wee bit better than this.
Greg Taylor.
Is not on the list. I feel like bloody Nick Knowles here.
So many kicks to have left here. What's the crack?
He's have 2 penalties each. Anthony went first.
There's one I'm thinking of, and I now can't remember his name. His name's went totally out of my head. If it comes back to me, I'll use it and I'll try and hang it at the end.
He's hard getting the question, eh?
Yeah, last
aye.
to get red carded. Yep.
Aye.
As I say, I remember in the COVID season, like Calmac got sent off at Ibrox as well.
I hope the comments are off, by the way.
The comments are off. We'll have them
Clearly.
Otherwise, I'll be getting them right.
I know what I'm saying, clearly.
Frimpong.
Oh, he's on the list. Very good, Anthony. The League Cup final 2019. 2-0 to Anthony, but he's had one more penalty than you.
David Turnbull.
Well done, Stephen.
That's a shout.
December 22. Home to St Johnstone in the league.
Ryan Christie.
Absolute topper.
Oh.
He got sent off against Livingston October 2019. And it was away in the league. It was a 2-2 draw. I think. No, it wasn't.
We got beat 2-0 that day.
We got beat 2-0. Aye. Right. So that's 3. That's Anthony 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
Never include this
wait
ever
now,
again.
Wait now. Sorry. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. No, you're still in it. If you have to get the next 3 and hope that Anthony gets his next one, or the next 2, sorry, and hope Anthony gets his next one wrong.
Carl Starfelt
is on the list, Stephen. Well done. December 21 away to Ross County in the league. It's 3-2. If Anthony gets this, he wins.
That's a great shout, mate. Christopher Ayer.
It's on the list. Anthony wins.
No! I was going to say Boyada. Is Boyada on?
No.
Pish. Doesn't matter.
The other ones you could have had was, and I cannot believe you didn't say this, Beaton. Sent off about 55 times. Scott Brown, he got sent off at Livingston.
Right.
A really obscure one. Well, 2 obscure ones next that you didn't expect anybody to get. Bayo got sent off in the Europa League away to Rennes.
Oh, fuck.
And then Jeremy Toljan got sent off in the Europa League away to Valencia in 2019. And that was it. That's it.
I was going to say the boy that broke the COVID rules, the left back that we couldn't.
Bolingoli.
Bolingoli.
What's his name again?
Bolingoli.
God, Bolingoli. His name went out. I mean, it would have been wrong anyway, but I thought he must have got sent off somewhere. Just sent him up anyway. But no, I'll take that. Good. That's a brilliant penalty shootout, mate.
That was another win for Tony. Stephen, you need to, the next time he's around, I'll do another one. You'll need to try and redeem yourself. But listen, that brings us to the end. Finally now, almost 2 hours in. But before I go, I just want to thank everybody in the comments for taking part and giving us your opinions. It's much appreciated, and for sticking with us for so long on a Monday night. And if you have liked what you have watched, hit the wee bell, subscribe, all the stuff that I don't know. But do it, and we much appreciate it. And hopefully, once John's back in, we'll get the membership thing
Yep.
back up and running again. And that's it. Thanks again for joining us. And night. God bless. Love yous.
Bye.
Bye.